hour by hour, it's just different every minute, and that's really a big part of the magic, I think.
The views around here seem like an illusion.
A really magical landscape.
But the space around the Wyoming-Montana border is Mother Nature's sleight of hand.
But you might have to readjust it for your eyes, okay?
Ashia Mills doesn't even need that scope to lock in on the beauty near her home in Gardner, Montana.
I feel like I must have done something right to end up in this position.
Ashia shares her passion with others through her guiding business.
These guys live in the most impossible places.
Walking shadow ecology tours of Yellowstone.
Wolves and bears, of course. Everyone wants to see the charismatic megafauna.
The big animals are the stars of Yellowstone National Park.
Did you guys find her?
Even when it's just a grizzly bear-shaped speck.
But a lot of times our views are like 4 miles away. These wildlife that are always in the top number of things that people are here to see.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing bison and pronghorn.
Take a look at every once in a while, she'll kind of look up at us.
About 28 years ago, Ashia landed here. So did some other visitors.
I got here about 4 months after the wolves did, back in 1995.
When wolves, like that one wandering in the upper left part of the screen, were reintroduced in Yellowstone, no one could have predicted the impact that the animals, often seen only through binoculars, would have on business. A recent study shows tourism brings in about $340 million to the county where Ashia lives and works.
Now, this is your basic little ant.
Guides aren't the only ones who benefit.
Not female relative.
Richard Parks owns a shop in Gardner.
My particular shtick is I take people fishing in water that hasn't been polluted by industrial operations or too many people sitting on a crapper.
Richard's focus is fish.
It's sort of generally buggy.
And making sure businesses like his and Ashia's stay afloat.
So the entire town is underpinned by what goes on in Yellowstone.
Can you see that yellow-headed bird?
Though Ashia makes money guiding, it was never about the cash.
Never been about the bottom line for me.
Until it was.
So the idea of these wolves being so evil, you know, it was really kind of an overstated thing.
2 years ago, the Montana legislature passed bills that loosened hunting restrictions around wolves. Bill sponsors said, in part, hunters were concerned with decreasing elk numbers. According to Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks, elk numbers met or exceeded objectives for most areas of the state. Still, any Yellowstone wolf that left the park was fair game.
Without those limits, we knocked off about a fifth of Yellowstone's wolves in one season, and it was pretty devastating.
Ashia, Richard, and dozens of other businesses saw potential for negative impact to their bottom line.
So these guys mostly would have been born in May?
The group formed the Wild Livelihoods Business Coalition. They sponsored a study through the University of Montana that showed wolves have an $80 million impact each year on the area.
Right.
Far more than the damage wolves cause.
They are toying with an entire mechanism across our county that has dire impacts on how people can survive here.
Their study and other complaints helped move the needle, and hunting restrictions were tightened near Montana's Yellowstone border.
That it's in their own interests to not make stupid policy.
Coming from Southern California, the only wolves you see is in a zoo, so to see it in its natural habitat is pretty special.
Even when wolves are barely visible, like that little bitty speck sniffing around that bison way out there.
The gray wolf was over by the trees up there.
Tourists herd together, canine paparazzi.
Oh, just because they're fun to watch and they're one of the more elusive animals.
They're about ready to crest that little hill on the other side.
Wolf-related tourism is a possibility for Colorado too.
You see them?
In 2020, Colorado voters decided by a less than 2% margin to reintroduce wolves by the end of this year.
You guys looking?
Colorado Parks and Wildlife estimates that wildlife viewing has a $2.4 billion impact on the state. They don't know how wolves could change that number.
To see a wolf in the wild is a gift.
Like most gifts, this one requires patience.
They were all headed that direction.
But when it finally reveals itself, the feeling Ashia gets is unmistakable.
Yeah, I think the value of a wolf is that deep, deep connection with the wild.
Wolves throughout the West is a new reality, something Ashia thinks makes her world magical.